For a great cup of joe, there's one thing you should know. Your morning brew can also be playful. Buff Boy Brewing guys make the temperature rise, and you surely feel naughty when you swallow our coffee. If you want some real heat, give your mouth a fine treat. You will want some more, rest assured. Buff Boy Brewing, you can't get enough of.
It's time for The Scribble, your weekly fix of celebrity chats, bizarre stories in the news, and basic random chatter with best-selling author and syndicated radio host Jeremy Bradley. Make sure your seat is in the upright and locked position and your barf bag is securely in place. Here's Jeremy Bradley.
Jeremy Bradley here on The Scribble, and the big question today is it really the most wonderful time of the year? It's back to school time for those youngsters. Parents are probably breathing a sigh of relief, right? Get the kids out of the house and back to the classroom. I'm going to relive my childhood days in school, because you know what, when you're old enough and you can look back at it and go, those were some really fun times. And so I also just kind of think about what's the way school has changed in terms of technology, and how, you know, we had to have pencils and pens and certain types of erasers and crayons in elementary school. Nowadays, not so much. So I'm going to be talking to all generations, the youngsters who are going through school right now, the oldies like me in my 40s, and just enjoying back to school. I was a bit of a nerd like that. I also had a mother who was a teacher and an uncle who was a teacher, and now I have a sister-in-law who's a teacher, so I'm a little bit prone to enjoying school. It's on The Scribble, and it starts right after this.
This statement has not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. No offense, but are you a little fat when you look in the mirror? How would you like to learn the secret to losing 3 to 5 pounds a week without joining the gym or going through any crazy diets? It's called Body Sculpt RX. For the last 2 decades, we've helped countless people lose thousands of pounds. And now, it's your turn. Learn how to lose weight with one simple phone call and no prescription needed. You'll see an amazing difference in a matter of days. Don't believe us? We'll offer you a risk-free money-back guarantee. So, if you're ready to start losing weight, call right now and get a free month's supply with your first order of Body Sculpt RX. Call now. You have nothing to lose but the pounds. 800-459-6838. 800-459-6838. 800-459-6838. That's 800-459-6838.
Jeremy Bradley here, back on The Scribble, and I guess it's also back to school time for youngsters and also for the college kids, right? I'm old enough now. We'll be talking about that all month, all summer, that I'm 41 years old now, so I'm that old person who can go and say youngster when talking about a 20 or 30-year-old. But it takes me back to school. First and foremost, I have no interest in going back to school, and it's not even an age thing. I just don't like sitting there and having to, memorize things and write everything down. I mean, I'm a journalist first and foremost too, so I write a lot anyway, notes here and there, whatever. But obviously it's different in a school setting, right? Because you're having to, remember things and study for tests and pass a test and whatever. And I'm just like, yeah, no, tests are not my thing. I always did very well. By the way, in school, it was now as a Canadian, I say grade 7. Americans will say 7th grade. But I do remember when I just got into junior high, because junior high starts at grade 7, and I had all A's on my report card except for science. I had a C. So I was the biggest, I guess you use the word nerd for somebody who does well in school, right? That's kind of what it is. Now you have to remember that my mom was a teacher for 30-some years. So in elementary school, she literally worked down the hall from me for all of the years that I was in school there, right? So you kind of have to be a goody two-shoes to a point, right? Do you know what because you can't, this isn't one of those things where it's like, oh, they're going to call home and tell on you. No, they're going to go walk down the freaking hall and say, Diane, your kid's an asshole. And then, because I'm from that generation where you didn't want to piss off or let down your parents, you were fearful of that. Now, I don't think the kids care. But for me, that was why I was always a very good student in junior high, and then in elementary school, and then in junior high, I was always a very good student. My mom was on the parent council and everything for junior high. So I was just kind of like, oh, my mom knows all she knows all the staff, basically. And that was kind of, you treaded lightly, I'll put it that way. And then when I got into high school, I didn't go to the same high school that my brothers went to. I went to a different school. So my mom was not part of the parent council. She didn't know everybody there. She didn't have those connections as she did with their school. And that was when I rebelled. That was when I became the kid that was, I didn't do anything. I still, 41 years old, have never touched a drug like marijuana or anything. So I wasn't that kid, but I was drinking. I was drinking. At about 16, 17, we would, a couple of us from school would go, sometimes you'd have a dance in the afternoon. So for those days, it was usually a Friday, we would, go for lunch to somebody's house, or we'd go to, I think it was like a Subway, or a 7-Eleven actually also had like chicken back then. That was when they were just starting to have that kind of food. And we would go to get lunch, and then we'd go to somebody's house, and there would be alcohol. And I'm not making a joke, I did have a bit of a drinking problem when I was in my teenage years. I could polish off a bottle of vodka after a while and be fine. Like, that's how much I was drinking. It was a little bit out of control. And so I would go to school drunk, and it was not, I'm not condoning it, I'm not saying it's right. Kids are going now messed up on, drugs and stuff. So I'm certainly not this like scandalous story here. But so for me, I always looked forward to going back to school. That was always a really exciting time. And you knew, because you would start to get the flyers delivered to your house. You'd start to see the TV commercials. I think now of like Staples with It's the Most Wonderful Time of the Year. And I think of, you get the kids with the backpacks, right? You see all those in the Walmart advertisements and the flyers. That was always very fun for me. Now, I know my older brothers, who weren't necessarily the best at school, didn't really care for it. But I enjoyed office supplies. Any kind of like stationery, writing utensil, scribbler, we called them scribblers, I guess you call them notebook now. Or if you even use those, that's where I'm going with this, is that the shopping list of school supplies was completely different than when I was in school right now, right? If you've got kids, I don't have kids, but if you've got kids, you know that they're getting electronic devices. They're getting, and sometimes they're supplied by the school for the kids to use in class. But, we had to get a certain kind of a calculator. We had to have, and they did. They told you needed to have like 5 scribblers. You needed to have 2 pencils or 3 whatever it was. And I loved doing that. That was like my supermarket sweep. I did. I couldn't wait. My brothers would always kind of wait until like the last minute to pack they might even pack their bag in the morning that day of the first day of school. But I was like, I had my bag ready. I was good. We always had to do those pictures. I don't know if do parents still do it? The kids stand in front of the house with their backpack and, you hold the sign that says first day of school. I didn't like that because I kind of posed and looked a little bit girly. Who would know all these years later, right? But so I never really liked those pictures. I'm sure teenagers definitely don't like that nowadays. But there was something that was just so fun about the new school year. And we would always get a new backpack every year. And so what I did, and I might have told this story a couple weeks ago on the show, was that I would then, at the end of the school year, put all of my work in that bag, and then it would be in my parents' house, in the basement closet, under my bed, like something. So then when I moved out, fast forward all these years later, when I was 25 when I moved out, so I haven't lived with my parents for well over 15 years, my mom, when she's going through this closet or this drawer or this, wherever in their house, she's finding, she's like, I found another school bag. Because I didn't sit there and go, okay, I've got grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, grade 4, grade 5. Oh, I'm missing grade 6. Like, I didn't do that. But it was just kind of funny because I held on to all of these things. And so each grade had a different bag. And I kept that just because I thought, when you take history class, you just think that, these are all going to be worth something someday. But it's also really kind of funny because I look at what I was learning about. And that's where I'm saying, like, just school is so different of what kids are learning about now. Now there's so much controversy about learning history and things, but I'm not, that's not where I'm going. I'm just saying, like, I never liked having to spend my English class learning Shakespeare. I never understood it. When my friend, I'm not going to say her name, but when my friend graduated, we were grade 12, I was 17 because I turned 18 a month or so later. So, you're 17, 18 years old-ish when you graduate. I remember that she didn't know the difference between your, Y-O-U-R, and your, Y-O-U apostrophe R, Y-O-U apostrophe R-E. I was just the reason why I stumbled there before you go and say I don't know how to spell as a best-selling author, I was looking at a word, and I the same letters almost were in the word, and so it tripped me up when this is why I shouldn't look at my Post-its and my notes around me. But when she couldn't spell those basic words, I was just kind of like, oh my God, she's graduating high school. How is she graduating high school and she doesn't know the difference? Now, obviously, what you see with texting and just kids don't, even my brother, who by the way works at a school, always gets lose and loose wrong. Yeah, right. He's older than me. And so that's where I go, why am I learning Shakespeare? Why? Why am I learning Macbeth? Why am I learning all this stuff that is going to have no relevance in my life? None. Why am I having to read a poem and decipher what it means, decode it? Why? Poetry rhymes. I'm making a joke. I know that it doesn't always rhyme. But I'm just saying, like, that was the kind of stuff that we were doing in grade 10 and 11. So I did take a step back a couple of weeks ago when I was going, doing some cleaning of the house, and I thought this is kind of fun. I just want to look. And it's kind of fun to look at, see how your handwriting or printing has changed over the years. Because right now, we don't write as much as we used to, right? We type, and we point with our fingers. We type that way. I can barely write, 4 or 5 sentences without my hand cramping up and feeling like, and then just you notice after a while that you're just become sloppy. It's not as good as it was. So I get a kick out of that when I look at grade 2 things and I see we had this kind of thin grayish paper. It had the blue lines. It had the solid line above and below, and then the dashed line in the middle. Do you know what I'm talking about? If you're my age, tell me. Email me live@jbonair.com, live@jbonair.com. And so it was fascinating to just see how, we were taught printing and then cursive. We were taught how, handwriting. And, you were just so, not neurotic, you were meticulous. What would be the word? You were meticulous, you were careful, you were elegant almost in the way that, just because that's how you were taught to print and write. Like there was something almost kind of fancy about it. And then I remember when we got a computer lab when I was in grade 6, I believe it was, that you had the printer paper that had the printers that went back and forth. They had those like coiled whatever's on the sides. Again, somebody just in my ear said dot matrix printer. Thank you. I forgot the name. So again, I'm talking to a certain generation who appreciates this now. But I remember when we then got to junior high and we had a computer lab and we would print things. That's when, do you remember there was that expensive paper? It was the good paper. You couldn't use the regular 8.5 by 11 white sheet for anything unless it was something important. That's when we would get that paper in grade 6 in elementary school, and then grade 7, like, you couldn't waste that paper. If you were printing on that 8.5 by 11 sheet, it had to be something good. And you definitely didn't want to make a mistake because you were wasting paper. This is the good, expensive paper. Now, look how we view it, right? Think about when you're at the office and you print something and it's wrong or it's crooked. You go and print it again. I mean, it was special paper back then. You did not waste these papers. And, I mean, now you're going with paperless offices, right, in classrooms. So how often, are people even using paper? But there was just something so different about that time going through that. I mean, it was, in my desk in elementary school, I had it organized. I had my erasers in one spot, because that was also, think about this, aside from like your bedroom, aside from, your place at home, this was like, these were your possessions. You had a desk. In junior high, we had a locker. You would take time either putting up posters or you would hang things on the inside of the door. You would organize it. I mean, it was teaching you not necessarily responsibility, it was teaching you organization. It was just teaching you to take care of your crap, basically. And I always took great pride in that. I had my books organized. So I mentioned about a scribbler, so notebook. I had a different color, like the one that had the red cover, one had the green cover. Each subject had a different one that I would know. And I would look in junior high at what we would have the next day. Like I would look at my schedule. Okay, first is math, then science, then geography. I would have them organized for the next day so that when I would come in, the one on the left, that's the one I grab. Like I would have them in order. That's how neurotic I was about organizing my locker. I just loved office supplies or school supplies, whatever you call them then. It was just a fun time. It was just good. But I guess the real issue for kids when you're going through school is that means that the countdown clock has started, right? That means that class is back in session. I didn't mind going to school. I wasn't that kid who was, I mean, I guess when I was 16, 17, 18, or 15, 16, 17, those last few years of high school, I was the kid who was kind of, that's when you're becoming late. That's when I'm sick, I can't go in. You played a bit of hooky, or you'd skip a first class. I didn't have that until high school, but generally for junior high, I mean, I didn't mind it. Now that science where I got a C instead of an A like all the other classes, I started to really resent that class. I didn't like it. It was just bad. And then, you're also forming that idea of what subjects you like and don't like at that age, I think. That was when I was starting to write stories when I was in grade 6. I would type them on a word processing program. I still have the printouts from school. And so I knew that I wanted to be a writer early on. So for me, I enjoyed creative writing class. I enjoyed English with the exception of, Shakespeare and crap like that, because I just kind of thought, this is English. So why are we not learning English? Like we're learning, Elizabethan and poetry and just like grammar that we would never use. Think about people's grammar today. And that's grammar AMMAR, not ER, as many people are spelling it. I love when people do that too. What are you, the grammar police? And they spell it like Kelsey grammar, not the proper word, or not the, anyway. But yeah, so it's fascinating when you look at sort of how you... No, I don't want to say how you don't appreciate education in the moment, because I don't appreciate Shakespeare, and that's where people go and say, "Oh my God, you're a writer, you're an author, and you don't appreciate Shakespeare." Well, what is that, a rule? Like, okay, why? So whatever. I don't like Shakespeare. Does that mean that every music artist has to idolize Beethoven, or do you know what I mean? Like, it's just kind of. No, it's just, I don't have to like Shakespeare. I don't have to like those just to be a writer. It's not. I wanted to learn how to write. I wanted to learn how to be a creative writer. I wanted to learn how to put stories and characters together. Those were the kinds of things I wanted to do. And I just remember hating it. So the subject that I should love, couldn't stand it in high school. Then, this is what's funny though, is then in college, when I'm taking journalism, when I'm doing creative writing and journalism classes and composition and grammar, we had, I think maybe it was because he was just this smug British guy. I hated composition and grammar. So the subject that I wanted, that I longed for in high school, I didn't get. And then now when it's time to do it in college, when I'm early 20s, I hated it. I hated absolutely every minute of it. But now again, this is where I think it was also in the lessons that we were doing, the assignments that we had, is that we were having to dissect what this story means, right? Whether this was similes and like you had to read between the lines. You had to decode the language. You had to, what are they really saying in this? What is the meaning? What are they insinuating? What are they implying? What are they? And I hated it. And I remember now this is funny, right? Because I was about to give a warning. Kids, don't do this at home. But I mean, just when I look at what kids are doing, really, they're going to look at, Jeremy's a rebel. This was back in the early days of AOL. You've got mail. And I had no interest in, first of all, reading this book that was assigned, and secondly, doing a book report. No, that's not what I want to do. I want to be doing the writing. I don't want to be analyzing other people's writing. Teach me how to write. Teach me how to use the language so I can write. Do you understand what I'm saying? Chris Petty, my instructor from back in the day, with your fucking tweed coats and your elbow patches. I'm kidding, by the way. But that was his name. And so I had this book report, this assignment for this story that I did not read. I had no interest in reading. And I ended up going online and buying a paper that I thought was a book report. Now what you did, now remember, this is before the days of like Amazon and like, every e-commerce kind of store. But I found on AOL, remember on AOL they had like keyword, right? Keyword help, keyword chat, keyword whatever, and then it would take you to a certain spot. It wasn't websites. It was always like keyword and it would take you to a special AOL. God, that's how old I am. How many of those CDs did you have growing up, right? Remember that? You get the 50 free hours of AOL. Think about that. Now kids are blowing through 50 hours on the internet like nothing. But I didn't read this book. I had no interest in reading it. But when we were in college, we didn't have many assignments, but they were worth a lot. So the one assignment would be worth 10, 20% of your mark. See what I'm saying here? So you only had, 4 or 5, right? This assignment is worth 25% of your mark. That's a big chunk if you fail it. If you bomb it, that's, you've just lost a quarter of your grade potentially. So I knew that this assignment meant a lot in terms of the overall grade or overall final mark. And I didn't want to read it. I didn't read it. I just, looking at the questions, because again, he's Mr. Smug Brit, I was like, I'm not going to be able to bullshit answers through this one. This is not, remember when you had like a word count and you just overly long sentences would just distract from, you were filling space is what you were doing. This guy's not going to fall for that. That's not going to work. And so I ended up coming home. I spent almost, I think it was $200 on my credit card, because what you did was you had said, this is the book, or this is the, publication or whatever it is. And here's my assignment. So you had to send what your questions were, what you had to do. $200 and some on my Visa. And I had done that about, I don't know if it was the night before, whatever, but they promised, the quick turnaround. So I stayed home from school that morning because I was like, I don't have this yet. And so I'm going to, we had AOL at home. I've got to print this from home. I'm not going to print that at school. Could you imagine? And I waited and waited. At the 11th hour, and literally it came at 11 o'clock. The 11th hour, finally I get this, you've got mail. I'm like, oh my God, here it is. And remember, email was much different back then, right? So I go and I open it. I hit print. And it was however many pages it was. As it's coming out, I kind of look, because in our classes, if you had a typo, if you spelled something wrong, you would fail. This was a very intense journalism program. So I was giving it a quick skim because I had failed an assignment in journalism class because the printer did not print a line fully. It was a website address, and the hyperlink would be bold or blue or whatever it would be. It didn't print properly. And so in the printout, the website actually just was not there. So it was considered a typo because you were supposed to have the website address or whatever in your sentence, and you didn't have it. I failed the assignment because the printer. And that's where they said, if you're doing this job as journalism, doing this job as journalism, oh my God, if you're doing this job as a journalist, doing journalism, you can't have typos. If you're working at a newspaper, if you're, putting something out there, there are no typos. That is not allowed. Now, I read a news story, I find almost one every single thing I read. And so, as it's coming off the printer, I'm looking and I'm kind of skimming and I'm reading the grammar. I don't know what country this was written in, and I'm not being racist, I'm not being, whatever. I'm thinking somewhere overseas, that's all I'm saying. And I just looked and I went, oh my God. Oh my God. Because this is what happens, though, is now you're going to look at this and go, if I turn this in, he's going to know, right? I mean, that's where me being an editor for as many years as I was at a publishing company, working with freelance writers as long as I did, I was very quickly able to tell who wrote something. Same thing when I did corporate writing back in the day, when some places have brought me in to do PR for them, and I'll write a press release or I'll do whatever. And, I'll get something from a certain president or executive or whoever. I'll know, okay, this person always writes like this. This person always does this, or this person always does this wrong. This person always makes this mistake. As a trained editor, you pick up on those patterns in the way people write. So certainly an instructor at a journalism program is going to look at this and go, first of all, Jeremy, this is shit. Secondly, I know your writing. This is not your writing. And I thought, you've got that dilemma of, do I turn this in and get busted? Now, I wasn't plagiarizing, so I was going to say get busted for cheating in a sense, because I didn't write this. Or just take the hit and not turn in the assignment. What would you do? This is my question for you listeners. Live at jbonair.com. Live at jbonair.com. What do you do? Do you just take the embarrassment? Do you just not show up to class then and not turn it? Do you try to work it through and then turn it in the next day and say, well, I was sick, and use what would you do? What would you do? Ladies and gentlemen, students of all ages, send me an email. Live at jbonair.com. Back on the Scribble right after this.
Listen up, guys. Are you experiencing any of the following? Fatigue, less drive, poor performance? If so, you may be one of the nearly 30 million men in the U.S. today dealing with ED. But did you know you don't have to pay hundreds for a prescription anymore? And you don't have to deal with the hassle of seeing the doctor or the embarrassment of going to the pharmacy for a certain pill. Now with one free call, you can find out how Herbal Virility Max can help you feel like a man again. For over a decade, Herbal Virility Max has helped guys just like you put a smile back on their face with improved performance and drive. Call today and ask about our buy one, get one free offer. Save the money, save the hassles, and get the better blue pill. Dial 800-578-0179. That's 800-578-0179. 800-578-0179.
This statement has not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Are you in bad pain? You know what I mean. Your knees hurt, your shoulder hurts, and your back. Oh my God, your back. They're constantly killing you. And I'm sure you've tried every pain pill or cream available at the drugstore. Am I right? Well, here is something you haven't tried. Pain Absolve. Pain Absolve is not available in any drugstore. The only way to get it is by calling today. We're so confident that it will work for you that we offer a free bottle with your purchase, no prescription needed, and best of all, each purchase comes with a money-back guarantee. Call now to find out how you can get Pain Absolve and get rid of your pain. Call 800-319-0582. That's 800-319-0582. 800-319-0582. Call today, 800-319-0582.
Isn't it crazy that you wait for payday, but before you know it, you're strapped for cash again? It's time to stop blowing your money and become a smart spender with the book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate at cheapskatebook.com. Learn simple ways to cut costs at home every day and during special times of the year. Don't go broke at Christmas. Don't remortgage the house for a fancy vacation. The book is filled with tips to save you money throughout the year. Check out the best-selling book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate at cheapskatebook.com or on Amazon and iTunes.
It's never too early to start thinking about your next holiday. Have you checked out Mexico recently? From tequila tasting, swimming with horses, to ziplining through the jungle and watching whales and dolphins in their natural habitat, Puerto Vallarta has it all. Visit mexico.jbonair.com to see all the fun PV has to offer. That's at mexico.jbonair.com for hundreds of photos, interviews, and videos from around the tourist hotspot. Check out mexico.jbonair.com for all the fun. That's mexico.jbonair.com.
Ever had something to get off your chest but never had the balls to say it? That's a load of crap. Speak Free with JB.com is exactly what you've been waiting for. Your chance to tell it like it is and not care what anybody else thinks. Have your say on issues of the day. Join newspaper and radio columnist Jeremy Bradley as he tells it like it is. Hundreds of thousands of people have stopped by, including some well-known celebrities who have had a chat with JB and speak candidly about what's really going on in the world. You can join them too. Have a rant or a rave. Be brave and head on over to www.speakfreewithjb.com now.
Who are the Kardashians feuding with now? What did that little thug Justin Bieber do this time? Who's getting hitched? And who's headed for Splitsville? Hear the latest celebrity news and gossip every day on Entertainment Wrap-Up. The good, the bad, the ugly, but mostly the ridiculously hilarious. It's all recapped in this daily segment at entertainmentwrapup.com. Have a laugh at the expense of the rich and famous when they take themselves way too seriously. It's 3 minutes of time-wasting fun at entertainmentwrapup.com. Check out Entertainment Wrap-Up at entertainmentwrapup.com. Brought to you by Speak Free Books.
We hear you chirping. Get scribbling. Tweet up the Scribble at The Scribble Show. Join the discussion with Jeremy Bradley. It's all going down right now on Twitter at The Scribble Show and at thescribbleshow.com.
Jeremy Bradley here, back on the Scribble. I'm laughing. We do this show in real time, and what I mean by that, if you're in showbiz, as I believe everybody now is, everybody basically has some kind of audio programming, video programming that they produce. Everybody's a podcast host. Everybody's a YouTube maker now. we do this in real time, though. I know that there's so many people who do podcasts and like just edit the shit out of them, and that's fine if you want to have that perfection. I've been doing broadcasting for 20-some years now, so I'll call myself a pro, why not? But we do it in real time. So we still tape this like a radio show. Like when we were on the air doing a 2-hour music show, this is 30 minutes, here we go. And so I'm like, okay, the next segment. And they're like, no, you've pissed away 20-some minutes of that segment. We don't have time for another segment. You actually have to wrap it up when we come back from the break. And so that's what I'm going to do right now. My name is Jeremy Bradley. This is The Scribble. Feel free to give me a shout anytime. It's always awesome hearing from you. Write something on crayons. No. Just email me live at jbonair.com. Live at jbonair.com. I will talk to you same time, same place next week. Bye-bye for now, everybody.
Want more Scribble? Check out thescribbleshow.com for past shows, celebrity interviews, cheapskate tips, and more. That's at thescribbleshow.com and on Twitter at The Scribble Show. The Scribble is a speak-free media presentation.
If you want some